All right. Hello. This is I Learn You Watch, and where I learn stuff and then you watch. And basically, I'm just trying to give an overview of what I did earlier to make this here. Yeah, am I on this page? I think I can see it. I also have my picture up. So we're basically making this. So before I had made this nav bar, and then now I just kind of want to recap what I learned and then what I went through to make the rest of this gradient background, the text, and what do you call it, the fill-in boxes here. And it's more or less, there's a lot of CSS, not a lot of like typing stuff on HTML. So all I did was black out the stuff I have. Here's my responsive website, so this is where we left off of. And I have to just kind of remember of what order more or less I did stuff, because I just commented out a bunch of the defaults settings. We put in a container, we put in rows, we have our little column percentages here. We also added to, we made like a new section, custom styles. So this is more or less for the gradient and for the text within the gradient and whatnot. So let's see if I can comment some stuff back in. Let's see, on the HTML, we didn't do too many things different. My computer is really slow right now. It's been on all night. And let's see, so we're creating a bunch of div classes. Let's kind of take a look at it. So let's see, we made a container. That was something we did a little later. We made an ID for section 1 gradient. And if I remember correctly, before I was told, I was saying that you make an ID usually just to, if you're going to use it with JavaScript. So IDs are for JavaScript. But however, I think IDs are also for things that are very specific, because I guess things can get really cluttered and really messed up with IDs. And since we had an ID for section 1 gradient, which is this gradient, I guess would be our section 1. That's all it's for. So since it's since it's so specific, we'll just ID it. Let's see, what else do we do here? Div class row. So yeah, we're making row classes, and then within the row, since we wanted to split this, this is actually a little different here. Originally, all this stuff went to the left, and then we kind of split this into 2 columns. But then what we ended up doing was moving this end 30% across the screen, and that's where I left off of. So this isn't finished. I think this will be more. All of this will be more in the middle of the left side, and then we'll have room on the right side for like a video or for something. There's my post. Wrong tab. Come on. So yeah, so that's why we have, I guess, our rows, which go across, right? Yeah, columns go down. And then we have a div class of column, which we called left side column. So column 6, if you remember, I'll show you later, but it's like, it's 50%. So we have 2 columns. We made a div tag, and within the div tag, I forget why exactly we put all these things within div tags, but it has to do with, I think it has to do with like if we were to come back to it or reorder it, it'd just make more sense. Something I'm still not too sure of. And then we made H1 classes, so header 1. And the reason why we had made header 1 classes was because of their like natural, spacing. Their natural size and spacing, which again, I forget what it is exactly, but it was just, I guess, yeah, the guy liked the spacing for header 1 tags, so he wanted to start off with those. So close out the div, and then we made a form, which is those inputs, the username and password. Within the form, we made a div, and we put header 2's username, and then we did some HTML. So we put input class, input box, name, username, type, text, so it accepts text, placeholder, username. That's why it says username inside here. So there's our placeholder. Same goes for password. It's input box, name, we named it, and then we also put the same placeholder as we did the name. And there's our form, and the rest are just closing div tags. So yeah, this is all HTML that we really made, and I'm not sure if it was super linear the way that we made things, but I'll just go ahead and I'll comment this stuff back in as long as it lets me. All right, there we go. So now all that's back in. So if we look at our preview, sweet. So we have our text, crazy radness, made for developers, because that's just what they put. And then everything's to the left right now, like pretty much touching the sides. And it looks very, very, very basic, very, very 1998-ish. Anyway, then yeah, so then now I got to kind of think about how we put in the CSS, because this custom styles looks more or less, this is all everything for the gradient. So div class gradient, section 1 gradient ID, yeah. So we wanted to make the whole section, just a section, a gradient, but not the whole page. So I guess that's why we made a div class and then we ID'd it. So I believe if we let that, if we unblock that, we should have, there we go, yep, there's our gradient from like a dark blue top to light blue on the bottom. Cool. And then this left side column, let's see, we didn't do that till later. And we want to make the text look a little better. So H1 large, yes. So we made classes for our headings. And then the color FFF white. I think we were messing around with the font size and the margins. I guess margin 0. But we're messing around with the font size and the line height. And then we settled on this, which looks kind of big in this section, but you'll see more accurately it's also kind of big. They're essentially the same size, it's just a bigger screen. So this is kind of what we settled on for now. And as you can see, on the page before, we had white username, white password. Our fill-in boxes were kind of big too, or they're bigger. So this is about to change. So we have form H2, and then we comment this back in, and that would just make, all that would do is make our form, we have H2 size, and then we just made them white. So that's really the only change there. Then input type text, yeah. This is an interesting way because I never put anything in CSS that way. We had, we called out the input, and then we use the brackets and say type text. So we have input, yeah. This is where the type text comes from, input class. I was just kind of, I don't know what word, but it was just like, it was different for me to see, to, what do you call it? To put this in CSS in this kind of form, rather than having like a regular curly bracket and calling out the this and that. Instead we had input and then we used brackets, type text, and that's just kind of new for me. Anyway, font size 20 pixels. So we made the input, the classes. Let's see, which is this? Feeling a little. Oh yeah. So this is for the boxes themselves. Input class, input box. Yep. Excuse me. So this is for the boxes, which you'll see here. If you notice that these boxes are now longer, and they're bigger. They have more size. They're just, yeah, all around bigger. As you can see, the text is white from this right here. So the font size for the boxes, we made it 20 pixels instead of whatever was regular, 12 or 16. The width, 400 pixels, which made the boxes longer. For minimum width, we had minimum width 100. So I guess if it shrinks down like on a mobile or on like a baby walkie-talkie, then like it won't go any smaller than 100 pixels. And then padding of 5 pixels just to kind of give it some room. So when you type inside of it, it has some room from the top and the bottom and the sides as well. And I think just to make things a little more clear, look a little more aesthetic. For the media, this is all navbar stuff that we've already done. So now there's only, I have to go back to the top. Oh, hold up. Oh yeah, I saved this because this was like the last thing that we did, but I'll just comment it back in for now. And that is what moves, it moves it 30% of the page. So like this is more like a mobile view. So if you're on the phone, it's trying to get the scroll down. I think ideally, we want this, we don't want this box to stretch out like that. On mobile, we just want it to be like straight, so you don't have to scroll left or right because that'd be annoying. And however, for now, we just move it 30% because we're kind of expecting, at least on like a website, that we're going to split this down the middle. So it will be 30% of this first section, which will be, it's technically 50%, 15%. Anyway, other than that boring stuff, let's go back to the top. Jesus Christ. There we go. So now we've made a bunch of defaults. We made a container class. I remember when I was doing this section, I was falling asleep. So some of just the filler words, I was just kind of typing in whatever he was typing in, but the things that he would explain and say wasn't really sticking with me because we made container classes before, and I just don't really remember why we made container classes yet, or I don't remember. With 100% container, so this whole div, I'm gonna say this whole that like banner of blue that holds the forms and that holds the headings, that's all within this container. And so 100%, so all across the page, made it a margin of auto, which means margin is, wrote down a note somewhere, because padding is within, and then margin is like, it's kind of like the padding around, what is it? I think the words and areas, so whatever. Padding on top and padding on bottom. Let's see what that means. If we notice any differences, this margin. So I think this might be the 4% padding for these words on top, and then padding on bottom. So if we can click into here, then this is a 4% from the bottom, or something like that. It's something crazy. Maybe we can notice it. No, I don't really notice it yet, but I'm sure it holds its place and has a purpose. Anyway, so then we did some stuff for the rows, and there we go. We have a div class row, and which is pretty much, holds nearly everything that you can see. And for rows, all right, comment this back in if it works. It's just so slow. We have a row of 100%. We had display of flex, so it would change. I think so. It'd be more responsive. Flex wrap of wrap. I believe that's when words like wrap back down so they're not sticking out. Although, I still have that problem with the input boxes. I'm not sure exactly how to fix that, but I guess we'll find out. Align items to the center. For the rows, these things are centered. Again, like I was just out of it for all these explanations. Row, we had the dot. I forgot that dot. It's called I guess it's for an action, triggers an action or something. So for a row, our action after display table clear both content. I don't understand what this is for. Honestly don't. So I don't know, maybe I have to go back or try to remember it, look back on the video. The video is probably the one before the one I'm about to watch, so I'll just keep a mental note. And we'll bring back our columns that we refer to. Like I said, column 6, 50%. So since we put left side column, and we call it column 6, which refers to 50% width. As I don't think it looks exactly like that here, but like I said at first, let's look at the version. We essentially have two columns here, or we just made one column, except we ended up moving this 30% of the way in the page. I'm not sure if I can find, I should be able to find the CSS for that. And if I find that, then I can wrap up this video, get rid of this video. I was about to say, nope. So I'm just basically looking for 30% because that's what I remember. Custom styles, there it is, left side column, margin left 30%. So that's why it looks like it's kind of in the middle. But yeah, that's basically what I did. Thank you.